In session. Thank you all for coming. With this, I'd like to ask Courtney to please call the roll.
Certainly. Ms. Cabildo? Chair Cervantes?
Present.
Ms. Kurgan for Secretary Moss?
Present.
Mr. Hardiman?
Present.
Ms. Lamone?
Present.
Ms. Wyant for Treasurer Ma?
Present.
Mr. Prince? Mr. Russell?
Present.
Mr. Fiegels for Secretary Sen?
Present.
Ms. Sotelo?
Present.
Ms. Seeger for Director Velasquez?
Present.
Dr. White?
Present.
And Mr. Williams? Mr. Fano for Director CalHFA?
Present.
Ms. Peralt for Mr. Stevenshaw? And Ms. Franklin?
Present.
We have a quorum, Chair.
That's terrific. Thank you very much. The second item, rather, is the approval of the minutes. They're in the package. I'd like to see if anyone has any comments or corrections to the minutes. And if not, oh, yes, Director Limon.
No, disregard.
Okay. If not, then I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Director Russell. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director White. So our protocol is to approve the minutes with a motion and a second so that they're deemed approved. And I'd like to start off my part of this by welcoming two new members of the board this morning, and Jed Seeger, seated to Sasha Kurgan's left, with the California Department of Housing and Community Development, and welcome. I don't know if you'd like to say a word or two to the board, but we are very appreciative that you're here today with this morning with us.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here today. In Gustavo's absence, I think I've been a delegate for many years, and I think this is my first opportunity to be here, so looking forward to the conversation.
Great.
And thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
And Chris Fano, at the end of the table there, welcome, who's been with the, if you could maybe just introduce yourself to the board as well. You're stepping in for as well here, so it's good to have you.
Sure, yeah, I don't know how this thing works.
Oh, they're just on.
They're just on all the time?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I'm
careful.
stepping in for Natalie Kuffel, the Director of Land Policy over at LCI, who's stepping in for Sam. So eventually someone else will be here representing me, so it'll just be a revolving chair. But I'm the Housing Policy Specialist over at LCI. I started about 6 weeks ago, so relatively new to the processes there and relatively new to this agency as well, so excited to learn and contribute and see where LCI and CFA can kind of work together.
Great. Well, we're glad you're here. Thank you very much. And Rebecca, would you like to pass on comments to the board?
Yes, thank you, Chair Cervantes. Like I did last month, I want to start my comments with an update on the CalAssist Mortgage Fund. For those of you that are newer to the board, the CalAssist Mortgage Fund was a program that the governor had proposed that CalHFA administer to help survivors of disasters across the state of California. We've been accepting applications for just over a month now from homeowners who saw their homes destroyed or left uninhabitable by the recent disasters. Those disasters actually occurring between January 23 and January 25. So there's been, a variety of disasters, unfortunately, not only the recent fires in LA, but also flooding and storms that have hit San Diego a couple years ago. Also, the Northern California fires that we all have been witness to. So not surprisingly, most of our applications, though, have been from homeowners who were affected by the Eaton and Palisade fires. So those were the ones in Southern California in January of this year. We've gotten about 1,200 applications submitted, but of the 1,200, we have seen about 5% coming from other parts of the state. So I'm really excited that we're able to not only help, the survivors of the Eaton and Palisades fires, but also disasters or state of emergencies that have happened across the state of California. So, we really recognize in a lot of our programs and our communications that California has a diverse population and communities, and we're really excited that we're able to serve the state as a whole. We are continuing in our outreach through various channels, including working with state partners like CalOES, HCD, and other community-based organizations. Those CalOES and the community-based organizations do have a physical presence and support they're providing on the ground in the LA area. I'm also continuing to do a lot of interviews and news media, TV, radio. I think I have a live spot tomorrow morning. Catch me. I think it's in the LA area, so Dr. White can record it for everybody, I guess. But we also have been getting a lot of coverage in Spanish language media. So, and those Spanish language media outlets have also been very essential in getting the words out for the mortgage relief program that we had run out of the COVID relief program, the ARPA funded program. So really making sure that we're hitting all the kind of media markets that we can, really looking into like ethnic media, Spanish speaking media. We have Spanish speaking spokespersons that do a lot of media. We want to make sure that we're, relaying information as culturally competent and approachable as, people are already facing enough having lost their home or finding their home uninhabitable. So we want to make this process as easy as possible. Moving on, I would also like to share that the reorganization of the Business, Consumers, and Housing Agency was approved or kicked off a couple weeks ago in the first part of this month. So we will now have the new California Housing and Homelessness Agency. We're really excited. This has been a continual conversation that we've been having with our partners with BCSH, with agency, with GEO, with our other housing continuum compadres, as I'd like to say. So we're very excited to have this focus. I think, as we all know, housing is the one of the number one issues that are facing Californians. The ability, our mission to have people in a home where they can afford, and so this focus that the administration has put on is just really exciting. I also have shared with staff, and I want to share with you that much of our day-to-day work will not change, but what will happen is we will be more impactful in how we're serving Californians in this housing continuum. Over the next year, myself with other key executives from CalHFA will work with the administration to bring elements of this organization into effect, including the new Housing Development and Finance Committee. Lots of words. HDFC, as we are calling it. This committee, among other things, will continue the existing effort to streamline asset management requirements from the different agencies such as CalHFA, HCD, TCAC, et cetera, and work with standing up a single application award system that will apply to all state affordable subsidy programs, which will include our mixed income program, the subsidy of the mixed income program. I'm going to keep the board informed on all the developments, but we're really excited. We've been having a lot of listening sessions and working groups, kind of not with the reorganization, but with the streamlined application as well as the asset management kind of consolidation of processes. Before I move on, I'm going to ask Deputy Secretary Kurgan if she has anything else to add.
Sure, you covered it really well. Thank you, Rebecca. It is an exciting time, like Rebecca mentioned, the governor's reorganization plan. This has been something that we've been working on for months, but it was started as a formal conversation with the legislature with the January budget presentation, and then has continued through many budget hearings and a lot of negotiation. The process is kind of an archaic one that's not used all the time for reorganization. So we worked with the Little Hoover Commission, had hearings. There's a lot of public documents about what this is. But ultimately, after the legislature considered it, and then they do not take action to disagree, so it's a kind of like a passive approval, but that happened, and the reorg is in effect. So the governor's reorganization plan will spawn everything that Rebecca just mentioned, as well as forming 2 agencies. So BCSH currently having 12 departments, dozens of boards and bureaus, and 1 secretary. That will now form into two different agencies. One, Business Consumer Services Agency, where our partners like DFPI, the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, Department of Consumer Affairs, teams that we will continue working with. They will be in a consumer-focused agency with a secretary who's focused on that. On the housing homelessness side, we'll also have civil rights. And so having a secretary who's focused on those 3 things, bless you, a secretary who has a seat at the cabinet, not only in this administration, but in future ones, feels like it's a very good thing for housing writ large to have someone who's focused. With the breadth of activities that are at BCSH, it's been quite fortunate that we've had now 2 secretaries who've been focused on homelessness and have that as their core responsibilities, but that wasn't a guarantee. And so I think this helps cement housing, homelessness, and civil rights as a key issue in our state, as it has been, as many of us know, and work in our careers towards. As Rebecca mentioned, I think there's a lot of good opportunities for CalHFA within this. We'll be focused on making our housing finance system work better. And as you all know and have oversight over, CalHFA has a lot of skills, but authorities and tools that can be put to work in our housing finance system. We'll be thinking about how to strengthen it, not only through planning, some of that happens at HCD, and how we're working towards the 2.5 million goal of units that we need in our state, and doing that through finance and also through preservation. So we'll be working with our partners at LCI as well. Welcome very much, Christopher. LCI, just for everybody's reference, is Land Use and Climate Innovation, formerly known as the Governor's Office of Planning and Research. They went through a reorg recently, and that's how they have a new name of LCI. But we work on things all the time. So collaboration will still be a big part of the way that we do work. The new agencies will not form and be stood up officially until July 1st of 2026. So the BCSH secretary is not going away in that time, I promise. We'll be happy to give more updates. I appreciate the few minutes to say more.
Thank you. Additionally, I wanted to bring to the board's attention that next month we're going to have a board business meeting. We're also going to have a workshop. It's our second workshop for the strategic planning session. So this round for the strategic plan, as some of you are aware, most of you, I think you guys attended the first session that we had in March. We've brought on a board consultant for guiding this group to be able to set the long-term strategic goals for the agency for the next 3 or 5 years. And so really that second workshop is going to be a continuation of the conversation we had in March. We're really looking forward to continuing that conversation. I think we did a lot of lessons learned with the first round of a strategic plan for this agency, separating it from the annual plan. And we really want to make sure that the board feels incrementally involved and heard as we develop this plan. So the plan would then be enacted in 2026 in the June meeting or the May meeting, whatever we have. So we're going to continue that. So I really just wanted to highlight that, kind of where do we want to go? What do we want to focus on as an agency? And so being a part of that conversation, this group, the expertise and the passion that this group has is really essential. And so I really would hope that many of you, if not all of you, can attend and participate in the second half of that meeting day in August. Additionally, I am attending the National Council of State Housing Agencies, or NCSHA's Executive Directors Workshop in Maryland. If I don't perish from the humidity, I will come back and be able to share a lot of the frank conversations we've had and the updates. I mean, obviously, I think Director Wyant has felt probably the most change in the federal policy changes that have been enacted thus far, but that also affects us, how we're going to do our business. I think you're going to hear a little bit about that from Director Tam a little bit later today as well, but wanting to be able to, it's essential for us to be a part of those conversations as federal policy changes and gets shaped. We want to be a seat at the table. So I will be there next week. Think of me and how humid my hair will be, and you guys can have a good laugh at that. Also, I'm really excited to share that the CalHFA's popular annual financial report, or the PAFR, has also received the GFOA Award for Outstanding Achievement. So the PAFR and then the AFCR, which is our annual comprehensive financial report, this is the 8th consecutive year that we've received this award. So it's a really good opportunity for us to not only look at the great things that we're doing, but we're doing them in a, compliant and, verified manner, that we're being recognized in our reporting standards. Not only the programs we're doing are impactful, but also the reporting and how we organize, essential for, the business and wanting to maintain things like our credit rating, et cetera. So we're really excited for that. And I really want to congratulate both our marketing and communications teams as well as our fiscal services teams, because they're both partners and essentials in this process. Lastly, I would like to announce, and so when I started at CalHFA, I was moved to come here because of the mission, because there's nothing like being able to affect someone at that Maslow hierarchy of needs level, that basic needs level, and the direct impact. And I was moved for the mission, but then I came here and I was inspired by the people that work here every day, the staff of CalHFA, and how they come in and live, eat, breathe this mission and vision and this purpose that they come here every day. And probably the most exemplary person that I can say represents that is Kevin Brown. He works in our multifamily department, and he just got promoted to housing finance chief of our multifamily programs. If you see him at a conference, if you see him in the hall, if you see him at these board meetings, he is here to produce housing for people to feel comfortable and at home. And I'm just so excited. There's policy wonks, I'm a leadership nerd or whatever, I don't know the alliteration of it is. And it just makes me so happy to see people thrive and grow at CalHFA. And so I really just want to thank Kevin for his effort and his passion, because he does inspire me probably weekly. Maybe sometimes his ideas are a little crazy, but I love them, and so keep them coming. The Sunday morning email is always a refreshing thing, so, but that's all my comments today, so I'll turn it back over to Chair Cervantes.
Right, thank you very much. And Kevin, I'd like to pass on the kudos to the board. We really appreciate your work and look forward to your ongoing contribution. Thank you. And I'd like to, just to pick up one thread here on the reorganization, it's been a long effort. The governor's worked to sort of like, in effect, better rationalize the way we approach housing in California. And I think for us, being a part of that and working through our strategic planning process so we can really, step up our game with respect to, the governor's direction of providing more housing for people of California. So we look forward to working with, under the new arrangement. And I think we'll probably spend a fair amount of time in the strategic planning process thinking how we, are a big part of that going forward. So I'm excited. It's great. So with that, I'd like to move to our fourth agenda item, which is really the main entree for today's meeting, which is the permanent loan increase from Marina Village. This is leading to Resolution 2521. And I'd like Stephanie McFadden, our Director of Multifamily, to walk us through this.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you all for coming today. I recognize that the main reason we're here is for the approval of this loan in a timely manner. So I appreciate you all making the time and effort to get here. And also, I'm so excited about Kevin's new position. He's been here 20 years.
Wow.
He started as the receptionist. Oh, wow. So he's my favorite CalHFA story also. So we are bringing to you a permanent loan increase request that exceeds 7% of the original commitment amount. That's been set as the threshold that has to come to the board. I just want to give you a little context for what we're seeing in our portfolio of deals that are coming to this conversion point right around now. These are deals that were started in that 21-22 timeframe. The construction kicked off at that time, and they encountered as a whole COVID-related delays, COVID-related cost increases, labor challenges, and importantly, interest rate increases over that sort of 3 to 4 year time frame. So to put some specificity to that, in this past fiscal year of 24-25, CalHFA had 7 deals that converted to permanent. Of those 5 deals, or 71%, required loan increases. And 3 of those came to the board. So this is a pretty consistent trend for us, and I will tell you in my experience out in the marketplace, it's industry-wide that deals that are coming to conversion have experienced these kinds of cost increases and are having to kind of restructure at conversion. Not even restructure, but kind of like everyone has to come to the table, right? Including the perm lender. And for additional context, in the next 6 months, today, we have scheduled 14 loan conversions. So you can extrapolate that as you will. I will tell you also that a lot of these deals have been delayed, as Marina can attest, and have required extensions to their permanent conversion. So that's the context. You can expect to see more of these deals in the future, as you have already. But let's talk about Marina Village. This is a 160-unit family project in Suisun City, Solano County. This was approved under the 2021 Mixed Income Program. Solano Affordable Housing Foundation is the developer. They are a nonprofit affordable housing developer. We have 3 of their deals in our portfolio, so we have experience with them as a borrower. JP Morgan Chase is the construction lender. R4 Capital is the tax credit investor, and we are the perm lender. Similar to many other projects built during this time period, Marina Village experienced cost increases and delays related to the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition, there were costs associated with significant increases to the variable interest rate on the construction loan. It was underwritten at around somewhere between 2% and 3% interest rate during construction. Actual rate was more like 6 or 7%. So that's a significant cost burden. These issues were compounded when vandals broke into the site and stole part of the electrical switchgear equipment that had been backordered for several months. To help cover these costs, the developer is requesting a $2.4 million increase to our permanent loan, which is a 10% increase. We have locked the interest rate for the conversion, and the new hybrid interest rate will be 4.24%. As I said, everyone is coming to the table to get this deal to conversion. There are additional equity proceeds, increased deferred developer fee, the addition of a fully subordinate development deficit loan, and a builder's risk insurance claim to compensate for the vandalism. Based on a current appraisal, the project falls within our underwriting guidelines for both debt service coverage and loan-to-value limitations. This is a result of increasing AMI levels, which allow the rents to be higher than our original underwriting. And this is great news. At final approval in 2021, the unpaid balance of the MIP loan at refinance was 0, and it remains 0 with this new structure. So we recommend approving this permanent loan increase.
Thank you very much for the overview. I'd like to see if there's any questions or comments from the board. Director Russell?
Just a couple of comments. First of all, thank you for the specialized equipment item stood out in the report.
Sure.
I'm just curious what happened. Thank you for clarifying that. I will say it seems like a really reasonable cost per unit even with this new adjustment. And it occurred to me though, and this has occurred to me over the years, is having any kind, not for this case, but in general, an image, a rendering, something that shows us, because building type visually, building type has such an impact on cost. I think it would help reinforce in the minds of the board members the nature of what we're approving here, and whatever we have available. So this is a 3-story walk-up, I understand that, which is part of the reason, of course, for the price.
Nice.
Just in general, I have to say, I think it's absolutely critical that we support our own investments, protect our own investments on a good project like this, and so I'll be happy if the chair is willing to, I will move approval of the item.
I'll put a hold on you
Okay.
there. I want to see if I've got other comments or questions in the public comments. So is that Director Soto, or you were going to?
Sotelo, yeah. Thank you. I have a couple questions. So thank you very much, Stephanie, and placing this in context is really helpful, understanding that there's 14 additional projects coming to conversion, and maybe we can give you a little bit of guidance as you evaluate those projects as well. My area of focus on this is always, as you know, making sure that the MIP is recovered at some point, because that's important, and that helps for ongoing subsidy of other projects, given limited resources at the state. So I want to talk a little bit about that. And then also, again, my other area of focus, again, as a developer, I always think about developer fees and understanding developer fees. And so my question specifically on this one is around the structure of the deferred developer fee and what that in fact does to the repayment of the MIP. So as I understand it, and maybe I'm incorrect here, but the developer fee has increased by $1.5 million as part of the overall cost. So I just want to understand that in terms of why the increase of the developer fee. And even though it is deferred, right, because now the new deferred developer fee is somewhere in the neighborhood of 4.2 million, the cash flow still shows the deferred developer fee being paid out at $7 million. So if we're now increasing that by $4 million, does that defer our MIP repayment?
It does not. As I stated, it remains fully repaid prior to maturity. And in this case, it's my understanding that the developer fee increased because the costs increased. And we're following the SIDLAC-TCAT guidelines 100%. This developer fee does not exceed those limits.
So is the deferred developer fee being recaptured, the full $1 million, $11 million, being recaptured from cash flow? Because it just seems that, there's now, the increase of $4 million coming back to the developer, and how do I put this delicately? There's cost increases to the project, but 4 million of those could potentially be coming back to the developer. So to me, it doesn't seem like, it's a good idea for us to approve that structure if the developer fee is being paid out.
I believe that they are deferring more of their developer fee. The developer is here. So correct
Yeah,
me if
so
I'm wrong.
Maybe
but-
maybe from an underwriting perspective, not hearing from the developer. But
Sure,
from
yeah.
underwriting.
Kevin, do you want to maybe help me? Here's my understanding, is that the way that our cash flow has been redone with this new sizing takes into account the higher deferred developer fee and takes into account that period of time. Oh, right, yeah, you'll want to see that. Right. And that we still end up at maturity with 0 MIP outstanding. So
And the maturity of the MIP is 30 years?
I think we usually model it at 17. Yeah.
It'll be, so Kevin Brown with CalHFA, Housing Finance Officer still.
For 2 days.
Thank you for the opportunity, by the way. So the
Former
deferred developer
receptionist.
fee at board approval was $7.2 million, and they've increased that to 11.3. Part of that is, as you pointed out, the increase in the developer fee that was 1.5. So there will be a bit of a delay in getting the MIP repaid because they're getting 100% of that until year 15, which was originally the case when we approved this project. After that, the deferred developer fee is repaid, and then the residual receipt splits kick in where we get half that towards the MIP repayment, which will get fully repaid by the time the project is refinanced.
Right.
I mean, I think I understand the concept, so it is what I understand it to be. But I think that having the deferred developer fee collected prior to our MIP, as opposed to letting us just keep the developer fee structure the way it is and having our MIP collected as originally anticipated, would be a better result
We
for
were
us.
really just following the original approval, and the original approval was such that 100% went to the developer fee first until paid, and then we went to the MIP, and again, we end up with 100% of the MIP being paid off.
Yeah,
Right.
It's the delay is like a year. It was originally paying off in like year 11, and now it's like year 12. And then the MIP payments would start.
Okay. Again, I thank you for your answers from a policy perspective, for the board consideration. Whether it's on this transaction or not, to me, the underwriting on the $2.4 million loan increase is completely fine, and I would support and approve that. It's just, for me, the MIP and deferring the MIP and having developer fees collected before our MIP is just, from a principal standpoint, a little problematic.
Okay, thank you. And if I could clarify, you mentioned the delay from year 11 to 12. That's with respect to the developer fee component, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
okay. And so I'm clear, because I had actually circled this item too in my notes on this. Costs have gone up, interest costs have gone up 400 basis points. So parties are kicking into this, but in terms of our parameters, like the four corners of what we were looking for back in 2021, we're getting our piece of this, the MIP, repaid on the same timeline. That's my understanding
Correct.
here?
Correct.
It's
Yes.
gone, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Well, it's not the same timeline.
Yeah.
It's
Well.
deferred more.
Right, okay, thank you.
Yeah,
That's just what I wanted to
yeah.
clarify, appreciate that. But it's in year 17 is when the target is for the MIP repayment.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
and we were like at year 16 originally on this, or is that, just to clarify?
You know, the original cash flow? I'm
never
sorry, I don't
Okay,
know. No.
all right. It's kind of for me, maybe neither here nor there at this point, because things have changed so much since
Correct.
21.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
And just to begin, it's not the payoff of the MIP in year 17, it starts paying off.
Yeah.
And it goes all the way through year 30.
Thank
So
you.
it's not like we're getting the full MIP returned in year 17.
Right.
So that, for me, again, it's a policy consideration for the board, not necessarily in this transaction, but in general, that to the extent that we can recapture MIP proceeds to then refunnel into other projects, I think it's a good objective for us.
I think it's a very fair point. This has come up periodically, and, as much as we've got 14 of these coming up, a number of which, and if they're in the right time frame, will have similar issues here. So this is,
100%. I fully expect more of our deals to require similar increases.
and we've kind of seen this already in some transactions. I felt like the lyrics have changed, but the melody's the same.
Correct.
And that's what we'll be seeing more of.
Correct.
I want to see if there's other board member comments,
Just
questions?
following-
Yes, Dr. White?
Just following up on your comment and Director Sotelo, I recall over the past year or two, we've had exceptions in certain deals where it's a similar payout or payback of the. But
You're
that you've
talking
drawn
about
that
the
up.
residual receipts
Yes,
split?
yes.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
And I recall asking 2 deals into that, just, we're keeping track of kind of those deals where that payout is being pushed back and we're not being paid off.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other questions, comments?
Just a couple.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation, and I think it is important, maybe something that we pick up in the strategic planning conversation too, just thinking about the ways that we're tactically using subsidy, and also just, also welcome to new team members. This is like, MIP is also not just about the subsidy, but the incredible amount of perm lending that's going, and so to Director Russell's point, being able to make sure that we're preserving the investment that we have. This project, correct me if I'm wrong, we already have people living in.
Yes.
New people
Yes.
benefiting
New
from.
units, yes.
Yeah, so
Yes,
really
yes.
critical action, and I appreciate you bringing this and everybody joining today. The perm loan is what is stretching and making a lot of these deals happen, and the subsidy is a tactical way to cover the gap. So I agree with focus on repayment. Also, the must-pay portion is really critical,
Right.
So I know we're here to talk about MIP primarily, but making sure that the perm loan is helping us generate these opportunities is something that I just want to keep in mind as we evaluate tactical ways to use the subsidy. That said, thanks to the developer for a successful lease-up, and welcome to the new residents in Sassoon City.
Okay. Other questions? Director Russell?
Just a comment, because I really appreciate, in particular, Director Sotelo always being so on point about what are the policy questions it's raising. I would be remiss if I didn't identify that deferred developer, when we pay back a developer's fee, it does typically go back into housing. Now, it's not we're not directing it, but the nonprofits who are receiving those funds. So I don't want to make it, when we have the policy discussion, I will be sure to make that point soundly as well.
I appreciate that, thank you. Other questions? I think for me, I had a chance to talk with our multifamily director before all this. My sense is that we've maintained our underwriting criteria
Correct.
here.
Correct.
So in terms of like coverage, it's actually gone up a bit. But in terms of protecting ourselves and the loan, we've got that covered. I
Correct.
mean, that was my first
Correct.
issue here. And the dynamic of the market, especially the financial markets, but also the construction labor market, this is just reality we're dealing with, and I think you made the mention that we're seeing this nationwide.
Yeah, yeah,
And so it's just kind of reality here.
yeah.
I think Director Sotelo raised some good points, and I think maybe through part of the strategic planning process, the discussion about the subsidies and how we apply that, the mixed income program, is a good thing to sort of talk through in that, because this pops up in different points, and this will not be likely the only one, I would think. But I think that's fair game. Okay, I'm looking around. I don't think I see any other hands raised. I'd like to see if there's any public comment. Courtney, can you check to see if there's any public comment on this particular item?
Sure, if any members of the public would like to make a comment, please raise your hand or come forward. There's none at this time.
Thank you very much. So with that, I'd like to see, I think we already have a motion, if I heard earlier correctly.
Would continue, yes.
Director Russell, thank you very much. Is there a second?
I'll go ahead and second the motion.
Thank you, Director Sotelo. So we have a motion made and second to approve Resolution 25-21 to increase the permanent loan for the Marina Village project. Stephanie, can you please call the roll?
Courtney?
Courtney will.
I'm sorry. It's like I'm going back there again because you're like you're my problem solver here. Courtney, please, can you call the roll? Thank
Chair
you.
Cervantes.
Yes.
Ms. Kurgan.
Yes.
Mr. Hardeman.
Yes.
Ms. Lamone.
Yes.
Ms. Wyant.
Yes.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Mr. Fiegels.
Yes.
Ms. Seeger.
Yes.
Ms. Sotelo.
Yes.
Dr. White.
Yes.
Resolution 25-21 is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you both very much. So agenda item 5 is the reallocation of Senate Bill 121 funds from the Forgivable Equity Builder Loan Program to State Route 710 Affordable Estates Program. This is and Resolution 25-22. So Ellen Wood, please take it away.
All right. Well, good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. My name's Ellen Martin. I am CalHFA's Director of Homeownership. With me today is Nick Koufasimas, our Housing Finance Chief over Loan Production. And we are here today with a request to reallocate SB 129 Homebuyer Assistance Funds and have a very brief presentation to augment the materials that you already have in your board packet. So if we could go to the first slide, please. So as some members of the board may recall, back in 2021, the CalHFA was allocated $100 million from the Budget Act of 2021 for the purposes of, for the very general purposes of providing homebuyer assistance. So those funds were allocated by the board to two different programs. The first was the Forgivable Equity Builder Loan Program, which was allocated $88 million to provide up to 10% down payment and closing cost assistance for households earning up to 80% of area median income. And that loan came in the form of a silent second loan that is forgivable over a 5-year period. So the remaining $12 million was allocated to the Caltrans State Route 710 Affordable Sales Program. So this program is a partnership between Caltrans and CalHFA that provides loans for low and moderate income residents of Caltrans-owned properties in the cities of Pasadena, South Pasadena, and Los Angeles. So the Forgivable Equity Builder Loan Program was highly successful and closed in November 2022 as funds were nearing exhaustion. When we account for fallout that occurred from the loan closing and escrow process, as well as a few repayments that we did receive and interest earnings on the funds, we now have approximately $5.4 million remaining in the forgivable account. So today, we are requesting that the board transfer those remaining uncommitted funds to the State Route 710 program, as the funding needs for that program appear to be on track to exceed the current allocation. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So I'll offer just a little bit more regarding the State Route 710 program. Over 40 years ago, Caltrans began acquiring properties in the cities of Los Angeles, South Pasadena, and Pasadena to make way for the then planned extension of State Route 710. And they acquired over 400 residential properties as part of that acquisition. So later, the freeway project stalled, and Caltrans is now seeking to dispose of those residential properties that it owns. The disposal of those properties is governed by a highly complex set of state statutes and Caltrans regulations, but for our purposes today, the important feature is to understand that the homes must first be offered for sale to the low and moderate income current residents at a home price that is affordable to them. So, as you might imagine, it would otherwise be very challenging for these current residents to access financing to purchase these homes. So Caltrans approached CalHFA, and CalHFA partnered with a private sector lender to develop a program to provide the necessary loans to these potential buyers. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned previously, back in 2021, the CalHFA board allocated $12 million for these purposes. Based on the number of properties that we have pre-approved to date and the pre-approval amounts, we anticipate that the total funding need for the program at maximum could be up to $20.5 million. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So for that reason, we are requesting that the board approve Resolution 25-22, which authorizes the transfer of those uncommitted SB 129 funds from the forgivable program to the State Route 710 Affordable Sales Program. And with that, Nick and I are happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much for the walkthrough. Questions from the board? Dr. Limon?
Well, first of all, I just really want to commend CalHFA for this work. It was very, very exciting to read through the materials for this board action, especially given the fact that one of the biggest underlying issues on increasing our homeownership rate in the state of California is the lack of accessible entry-level supply, and this is not a common occurrence that we are doing a project like this, so this is very exciting. I really want to commend just the thoughtfulness in the design of the program, even down to ensuring that there are repairs, significant repairs that are made to the home to ensure that the future homeowners aren't going to be in a worse financial situation than they were to begin with. So really exciting. A couple of questions. What happens, so for example, if a renter or habitant of a home, one of the homes, does not qualify, has an AMI that's greater than 80% or is not interested, what happens to that home?
They have the option to buy it at fair market value.
Yeah, but is it open to other people is what I'm saying, and
Well,
how do those folks get
There's
access
the
to it?
Roberti waterfall that has to take place, so it's first offered to the occupant.
Right.
And then it moves on to, the localities have the option to buy it, and then it goes to fair market.
Got it. Okay, thank you. And then also, who is the lender that is doing this? And this is under CRA.
Yeah, so originally, this project originally was set up in 3 phases. So we completed phase 1, and the lender on that was called Mountain West Financial. They're no longer around. We have American Veterans Mortgage now that is originating these loans.
So they're independent.
Independent.
Got it.
Correct. Yeah, statutorily, we're not allowed to originate loans. So I had to find a lender originally.
Right.
And there's a lot of guarantees involved in this. There's a lot of hand-holding. Because these properties are so heavily deed restricted that a lender is very cautious on having one of these repurchased. So I have to hold their hand throughout the whole process.
No, I can imagine. I am also really interested in seeing the results of this project. What are the outcomes for these individuals? Because I'd love for us to discuss other ways that we can partner with other entities to do something similar. So this is really an exciting prototype that we're launching. So I would like to move to approve.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to see if there's other questions or comments first, and take the public comment, but I'll hold that one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen?
Other board members?
Yes, please.
Dr. Russell?
So first of all, I will say, this is an example of one of the programs that has given us our reputation for being able to handle extraordinarily complex, challenging projects. And so thank you for creating a reputation where we get handed yet more of these thorny projects. It makes me proud to be a board member when I see us involved in a project like this that really has so many layers of social good. Coming from a region where a freeway has torn through communities before, the power of what we're doing here is really great. I do want to ask, because, and Director Limon made a reference to the quality of the housing stock. Has Caltrans been a good steward? Are we selling them houses in good condition?
We hold them to FHA standards when the property is purchased. So these homes, we require a 2-year roof cert, so at least you're guaranteed no leaks in the roof. We make sure that everything, the heating and air is working correctly, and there's a home buyer warranty that they receive also. Because a lot of these people don't have the financial needs. I mean, all it takes is like a water heater to go out, and then, they can't make their mortgage payments. So we're setting them up for success versus failure. So my job is to make sure when they close that home, they have a functional home that they're not going to have to put money into improving that home, at least years down the line.
Great. Thank you for that, and thank you again for the work. And like Director Limon, I'm interested in tracking the future of how this plays out for the residents here. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Russell. Any other board comments?
Yep. Yes, please.
Sorry?
Yes.
Director Kurgan.
Thank you. I get the benefit to sit in for the secretary here, but I also get the benefit of getting to work with you day to day. And so just building on the comments, it's been really impressive to see you you two specifically, take on a very hard project. Nick brings multiple rounds of this. HCD does as well. Jennifer Seeger's been part of the Roberti program. But this was, an assignment that was given after general fund was given through SB 129. And CalHFA had already thought of other productive uses for these dollars and still decided to swing in and work really collaboratively. And so you two have held a lot. This has been politically challenging and technically really demanding. And I appreciated so much how you've held the intention of very complicated law and at the same time who we're here to serve, and so have made really impossible things that don't happen on the market naturally. And so it is interesting to see what kind of conditions, may they not all be from 40 years ago when a freeway was going to be built. So let's not have the same origin, but think about ways that we can apply this and what other actors we need to be able to pull off something that is impossible in the functioning market. But huge thanks to you and an enthusiastic support from our team to be able to support the recommendation.
Great. Thank you, Director Kurgan. Look, I don't see other hands raised. I've got a question, and I think I know the answer to this, but I just want to ask it, which is, so we've got $5-some million of funds left over in the Forgivable Equity Builder Loan Program. So is there thought of just plowing that back in again, or is it, since the program's kind of done, you'd have to restart the whole mechanics to get that going?
Correct.
Okay, so it's like you almost have to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. Whereas with respect to the State Route 710 program, it's ongoing, there's a need for it. So this is just sort of like a logical application of an unanticipated surplus. Is that the gist of what we're doing here?
100%, yeah. It's very challenging once we've shut a program down to start it back up, especially for, in the State Route 710 case, $5.4 million is very meaningful. It was less meaningful in the forgivable circumstance. So to start a program up for that small amount and that small number of loans wouldn't be sustainable, but it makes perfect sense to divert these funds for this use as well.
Okay, no, I get the logic. That was my sense of this, but I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you very much. Okay, one last round. Any other questions from the board?
Great job.
Yeah, very well done. Thank you so much. I'd like to see, Courtney, if there are any questions or comments from the public.
If any members of the public would like to make a comment, please raise your hand or come forward. There's none at this time.
Thank you. So I have Director Leone has graciously offered to move this item, which is the resolution 25-22. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Director Kurgan. So we have a motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 25-22. Courtney, can you please call the roll?
Chair Cervantes.
Yes.
Ms. Kurgan.
Yes.
Mr. Hardeman.
Yes.
Ms. Lamone.
Yes.
Ms. Wyant.
Yes.
Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Mr. Fiegels.
Yes.
Ms. Sotelo.
Yes.
Ms. Seeger.
Yes.
Dr. White.
Yes.
Resolution 25-22 is approved.
Thank you. And thank you both very much for the work on this. Appreciate it. Well done. Okay, we move on to agenda item 6, which is an update on our bond recycling program. And Director of Finance Erwin Tam will be here. And Zach Tendy, I think. Is that
Yes.
great? Please take it away.
Good morning, Chair Cervantes and members of the board. Erwin Tam, Director of Financing, here to discuss an update to the agency's bond recycling program. At the last month's board meeting, the Chief Deputy mentioned that we would have a summary of the results of our 5-year partnership with Apple underneath the agency's bond recycling program. And, on behalf of the agency, I think that we want to thank our corporate sponsor at Apple in their commitment to affordable housing and advancing and improving the lives of Californians throughout the state through this bond recycling program. So we're going to discuss, first of all, I'm going to give you a little bit of a primer as to what bond recycling is. I have a really complicated diagram that I'm not going to share with you, but if you want to talk about it, more than happy to go through a bunch of boxes and arrows. And then from that, I'll talk about sort of what the programs and results were from the past 5 years, and then discuss a little bit of what next steps are for the program, because there have been some changes to the tax law that will materially impact the program going forward. So on the next page, bond recycling allows for the redeployment of tax-exempt bonds for unrelated multifamily projects through a series of draws on a letter of credit. So again, for the past 5 years, Apple has provided this letter of credit for the agency, and so we're able to redeploy the benefit of tax exemption from one project to another. One key feature of this program is it does not carry any additional tax credits with it. So again, the only benefit is a lower cost of capital through the deployment of tax-exempt bonds rather than taxable bonds. So again, it's a financial benefit from the reduction of the cost of capital, and this is done through the allocation through the 50% test, and about 25% of which of the capital stack is kind of carried through a permanent loan, and so we're able to preserve, let's say, about 25% of the overall total development costs through the bond recycling program. And as you know, there's a change to 25% test. Again, I'll talk a little bit about how that will impact the program. So again, going back to my crazy diagram here, multifamily. This is a multifamily program. They manage a relationship with our developers, and the financing team conducts all the draws. So all the arrows you see on this paper, my team is dedicated between fiscal service and finance to maintain this program. I think last year or 2 years ago, we did something along the lines of 170 draws back and forth. And so there's a lot of activity that is required to maintain this program. And I want to just express my appreciation for my team in doing so, because again, this is for the benefit of affordable housing in California. It's not a really it's a program that the agency provides sort of as a service to the state. It is not actually, based on our cost structure, it is essentially a revenue neutral program offered by the agency. On the next page, you'll see, I think in some of your briefings, 6,999 units that were financed. So we're one shy of 7,000. And so what's really exciting about this table to me is the fact that we have quite a few units that we were able to finance or, again, apply the benefit of tax exemption to that were outside of the CIDLAC, TCAC, and tax credit system. So if you look at sort of the bottom here with the tax credits that say, I'm trying to figure out what the model is, but they say no, right? So that means that really the only thing that they've asked of the state is to provide the tax exemption of recycled bonds. So that's really exciting. We saw a fully affordable project, Potrero Power Station in the city of San Francisco, and we also saw a project that was an 80-20 deal done in the city of LA, which is the VOS project. So again, these are projects done outside of the current system for tax credits. So what's next for the agency? We're trying to make the most of the program over the next couple of years. The reduction to 25% test means that there will be lesser or no opportunities to reserve future bonds in the future. So we're really only working with those projects that have been allocated, bonds underneath the current 50% test. And so really what we also see now is kind of substantial demand over the next couple of years. We have over $500 million of demand in the pipeline. And one of the projects that we're really excited to talk to you about today is one that we just approved for allocations, which is this Coliseum project, which is in the city of Los Angeles. Before I turn it over to Zach, I just wanted to know if there's any questions from members of the board. I know I've went pretty fast through the highlights here, but more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
I think you might have a few questions here. I saw Director Russell first and then Director Sotelo.
You saw the quizzical look on my face.
Yes, I did.
Could you give a simple version of the new 25% test and why the dynamic that you're talking about there?
Yeah, thank you. And I was going to say, we have some newer board members
Yeah.
here, so let's go back, like 25% of what?
So,
You know.
right, so so the total development cost, so we allocate 50%, so the 50% test says that thou must get tax-exempt bonds allocated by Marina's department, essentially to receive 4% tax credits. And so our long-term takeout is the permanent loan, which goes between 17 years. The agency offers 17-year balloons and 40-year bonds, or 40-year loans. So in essence, our average permanent loan, so the long-term financing is, let's say, about 25% of capital stack, right? So there's a delta there between the 50% of tax-exempt bonds and the 25% bonds that go out long. So if you imagine during the construction period, there's equity coming in to pay off a portion of the construction, right? So there was a change in tax law in 2008, which says, hey, the federal government has basically said you can do tax-exempt bonds or thou must do tax-exempt bonds. So but these bonds are being redeemed within 3 years during the construction period. So they're like, hey, why don't we change a little bit of law to kind of expand the benefit and allow you to issue the bonds out long. So we're able to preserve it. Now, keep in mind, the way I refer to this, so that's sort of the mechanic. That's the reason why the reduction in 25% test will sort of eliminate that, because there will be no more limited overage, in terms of the allocation of bonds to projects. I will say that the current process works. There's another limitation that I want to mention is, and you've heard me mention this before, is that bond recycling's like keeping a shelf stocked. So we're basically providing tomatoes on a shelf, and those tomatoes on a shelf have a 6-month useful life. So when we preserve something from a single project, so there's a pay down, we're able to put that on the shelf for 6 months, and if nobody takes it, they expire. Essentially, our produce goes unpurchased and unused, and it goes away. But in certain cases, obviously, we have to align the supply and demand to make sure that the produce actually is purchased and used by another development. So my division is sort of responsible for coordinating all those moves within the agency. So again, the 6-month useful life is actually one of the key features of this program as well. So hopefully I answered your question there. But
Can I restate it and see if I'm even close here?
Yeah.
Initially, in order to qualify through SIDLAC and TCAC, half of your project has to be financed through these private activity
Yes.
bonds. But when they move to perm, they pay half of that off, and so they're only carrying 25%
Yep.
normally. So we're
On average.
basically saying you can enter with just 25% now. There isn't going to be that overage anymore.
Yep.
Is that?
That's it. You said it much better than I did.
That's my job. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Sotelo.
So it's a very complicated thing to explain. So I really appreciate that you're being, the tomato analogy is helpful.
I think Director Russell, again, full credit to him for explaining much better than I did. I'm much more wordy and I talk much too quickly for.
Yeah. So, I've always believed that recycled bonds are kind of that untapped treasure that developers can use to access and get low-cost financing for their projects. So it is a big deal that we're not going to be able to have that as a resource anymore, even though it does have that 6-month timeframe and expiration date. There have been a lot of great projects that have been able to utilize it because of that. So my question, I guess, to the extent that we have a current pipeline of 300 million, is that what you have?
About 500 million.
500
Yeah.
million that expires over the course of the next.
So that's our demand.
That's,
Our
that's
pipe-
demand.
Yeah, right.
So the pipeline is 500 million,
Correct.
but our existing resources are,
So we preserve whatever comes in the door. We have a line of credit of up to 300 million. That doesn't mean that we have 300 million at any given time. That's sort of our maximum
see.
line that we're allocating. So it is because we have to establish debt to preserve sort of the volume cap. So, I could get you the sort of the actual number that we have on our line of credit right now. But again, what we need to do is preserve and then redeploy them for the 500 million plus of demand that we currently have.
right. So from a strategic planning process, one of the things that perhaps we can delve into when we have our business meeting is programmatically what we can do now to expend the dollars that we have accessible to ourselves. The 25% cap isn't going to really take place until, it's effective now, right?
Yeah, so it's for all bond issuances beginning January 1.
January 1, okay.
So we'll be implementing the 25% test for round 3
Oh, okay.
via emergency regs on August 5th.
Oh, interesting, okay. So,
That's quick.
I think this is it's just one of those resources that we can really get on top of and make available as quickly as possible. And that's what makes CalHFA flexible and nimble and attractive to developers, right? So this is one of our, tools in our arsenal, and I think that we really need to deploy it effectively in the next 6 months.
Yeah. And if I could do a clarifying question as well, the 25% test, so we're living in a world where the current rules apply through the end of the year, and they don't, and I guess the significance, that all, is it derived out of the big beautiful bill? Is this one of the consequences of that legislation?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, so we've got a 6-month window to use what we've.
It's longer than that because there are current projects that are allocated right now that are underneath the 50% test, and they will be carried through. So we essentially have 2 to 3 years left of this program because those deals that were approved underneath the current 50% test will then convert and still have additional bonds to be
They're
reserved.
grandfathered, to use that word.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I want to see if there's other questions.
One more, yeah.
Director Kurgan.
Yeah, it's no surprise to CalHFA staff. When recycled bonds were first going to be brought to our state with CalHFA, one of the discussions that we were having about potential applicability for preservation. And I saw that there was AC rehab, but I mean like actual preservation of at-risk. And so I know that there are other states who have led recycled bonds for some time, and we are still, one of the small cohort of states who actually have a program like this. But I am curious about potential uses beyond what we've used the recycled bond for before, and if there's any untapped ways to, kind of to your point, Director Sotelo, thinking about ways to continue the utility of this program, not just for the tail that exists in the pipeline, but are there other untapped ways to use it despite the change of the 50% test? So I'll be curious about that in the conversation, and it might be helpful, Erwin, if we can think about what other states have done. I know we're all in this new 25% test together, but to maybe think about NCSHA partnership and what we could bring on.
Absolutely.
Yes, please.
I do think there's still going to be some bond burning happening.
Yeah.
Even with the 25% test. And, a bulk of that's probably not going to be the projects that CalHFA has been a conduit issuer for, certainly not the MIP program, right? But I think we do need to think about how I don't think it's going to be a complete winding down, and we might want to be looking at ways for CalHFA to be conduit for HCD finance projects and those other projects like that are carrying much less perm than an income average project is going to carry. Because again, that is going to be a valuable resource, not just as Director Kurgan mentioned, for potential new opportunities, but also there are a lot of projects that can carry up to like 35% perm, where recycled bonds might be particularly valuable still.
Appreciate that point.
Yes.
I appreciate bond burning is a new term for me, so.
That does carry negative connotations, though, for those of us in the municipal bond space.
Anyway, thank you, I appreciate that. Director Russell.
So, I just wanted to comment on something that Director Wyant said, that they are implementing this 25% test. The nimbleness with which you're able to do this in this timeframe is remarkable, and it is releasing a lot of great potential into the market here, into our affordable housing market. I just don't want to glide right over that without acknowledging the incredible
Well, we're
work.
also getting a lot of pressure to be making changes to round two, which we're in the middle of. And so we're also looking through what are incentives that we can, because all of the round two projects that will be awarded on August 5th will have 2026 issuance deadlines. So we're also looking at how can we also incentivize projects to restructure with a 30, we're really going to be encouraging projects to hit 30%. So that we're eliminating supplementals and we're not dealing with sort of all of that. And so we are going to be we are right now trying to figure out what's the right incentive to encourage projects that would be closing in 2026 to restructure. as
Well, again, I think it bears repeating, but, government gets a bad rap for inefficiency or complexity, all these things. And when agencies work together like this so efficiently, I think we need to call it out. And so thank you for your efforts in putting a good foot forward.
Thank you. These mics
Other-
are very sensitive.
Yeah.
No, right?
I can hear everyone this time. Any other questions? So I think for me, so I'm looking at so being nimble, getting stuff through the door, pick your metaphor, I suppose, matters. And in your last bullet point, you note that there is almost 600 million of demand in the pipeline, half of which is this project in Los Angeles, I gather.
Yes.
So there are projects out there for which we could use whatever we could throw at them, so to speak, before the tomatoes go sour.
Right, and that's exactly what you're right in this, and that's sort of one of the challenges in the past couple of years is our demand ebbs and flows over time, right? We provide a product, we keep the shelf stocked, and sometimes customers want them and sometimes they don't. Maybe they're making tomato sauce one day and maybe they are not. So it really depends. But I'm really excited because we do have a pipeline now, for at least that will last us the next half year or more for the agency. So and again, a lot of these projects, especially the Coliseum project, is one that is not requiring other state resources or any other resources other than the benefit of tax exemption that we're able to provide.
Right, and so I'm clear on this. The tax exemption really is derived from, these are private activity bonds through the SIDLAC process.
Correct.
It's just that we were able to grab that.
Mhm.
But another way we could do tax exempt bonds is where governmental agency.
Governmental purpose bonds, right.
If it's exactly, governmental purpose bond, we could do that without tax credits. So I guess the question is, it seems like there is a market for that. Then if we got 600 million demand for that kind of a product,
Yep.
then forget the SIDLAC process. We could, under the right set of circumstances, do tax exempt bonds, offer that, and maybe that's something that works.
Just accelerates
Correct.
projects. I mean, you just
Yeah.
accelerate it.
Yep.
I mean, that to me is a superpower
That's
there
our
somewhere.
superpower, correct. Yep, as a government entity, we are able to do governmental purpose bonds.
Yeah. So that, again, is something else we'll be talking about, I think, at some length in this strategic planning process.
Absolutely.
So there are great tools we've been using, but there are other tools that we can probably, use as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from the board? Okay.
I'm going to turn it over to Zach to kind of discuss the Coliseum project if we, I think we'll move on to the next
Oh,
slide.
okay, you got more.
We have more. We have more, but wait, there's more.
Thank you. I knew you were trying to get my attention here. I'm thinking like, oh, yeah, I know I'm missing something here. Thank you. Could you
We
please?
just wanted to have like a highlight of sort of what
Yeah.
we're trying to accomplish. And you mentioned the Coliseum project, which is about 50% of our
Right.
our demand going forward in our recycling pipeline. So
Yeah.
Well,
No,
Director
can-
Russell asked for pictures, and so we're already delivering on that.
There you go.
we
So-
read your mind.
What I want to be mindful of here is public comment, so I'm looking at general counsel. I'm assuming we could do that at the end of this discussion.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we can proceed with this part, and, okay, thank you. So please, go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Zach Kendall, and I'm a principal of a LA-based real estate development company called Thrive Living. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Irwin for inviting me here today and his strong support of the Coliseum project, along with the rest of the CalHFA team. And thank you, board members, for taking the time to allow me to speak today. Go to the next slide. I'm proud to say that our firm, Thrive Living, is extremely active building much-needed affordable and middle-income housing across Los Angeles. We're a vertically integrated company, and along with our affiliate company, have developed over 100 projects over 3 decades. Programs like Recycled Bond Cap make it possible for investors like us to build housing for low-income residents and the missing middle. Without these tools, it becomes much more difficult, especially in high interest rate environments like we're in today, to move important projects like 5035 Coliseum Street in Los Angeles forward. Next slide, thank you. 5035 Coliseum Street is in South LA, a short walk from public transit and one of LA's main thoroughfares, the 10 freeway. For an 18-month period prior to our approval, we engaged with the local community to understand what they were looking for, what the community was missing. We held focus groups in the retail to understand what brands they liked, what they didn't like, what services they felt they needed, and ultimately ended up with this development, which includes 800 apartments and a retail store leased to Costco. The next slide, thank you. The project sits on 4.96 acres. Of the 800 apartments, 184 will be dedicated to low income. All of the residents in the building will share the same experience. All the units are dispersed throughout the project. All of the amenities are open to all of the residents. The Costco will include the retail, pharmacy, optical services, hearing services, and more for the community. There's a significant amenities package, including over 1,500 parking spaces, all subterranean. And we're very excited to move this project forward, delivering attainably priced housing and much-needed goods and services to this community. Thank you again, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board?
Just as a South LA resident, I really do appreciate Costco coming to town. I think that's great. I think it's going to be a fun project for the residents.
Yeah, I have to say, it's kind of cool to have a Costco on the ground floor. But, yeah.
It's the first one in the US.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Other questions from the board? I guess I'd like to get a handle on, so the income mix here, is 80-20? I mean, can you just talk through that a bit here so I'm clear on
Sure.
what
So
we're
through
talking?
the entitlement, 23% of the units are set aside for low income, which is not to exceed 80% of area median income.
Okay.
And the other 77% are unrestricted, but our intent is to lease them at, quote unquote, middle income, which is 120 to 150% of AMI. And we have, and Phil mentioned earlier, the Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles is also a partner in the project. And they're providing fair cloth to rad vouchers, which act as essentially project-based vouchers for Section 8 residents as well, for a portion of the 184 units.
That's the part of the 23% then?
Correct.
Got it. Okay. So then, again, I'm thinking of like the bigger picture here beyond the recycled bonds. If we were doing tax exempts, governmental purpose bonds, the math might work where it's like an 80-20 kind of a project. Is that?
Very similar.
Okay. You could get to a higher, 50-50, whatever, with tax credits, or actually more than that. But with just the tax exempt finance, the lower cost implied by that, by gosh and by golly, is like 80-20 is like might be the mix there.
You said the mix on?
The income mix, 20% low,
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
I'm just trying to get a sense of this. Thank you.
Sure.
Other, yes, Director Sotelo.
Are we going to be seeing this as an approval, or this is a recycled bond program? It's through the committee?
Yeah, so CalHFA is not doesn't lend, is not an on-balance sheet lender with its bond recycling program currently. So it is a conduit approval, which is ministerial through the agency and through the executive director and chief deputy.
Okay, so, and this is going through the letter of credit with Apple or not?
Well, the letter of credit with Apple has expired.
Expired.
And so the going forward is with our two new letters of credit, which is with the Royal Bank of Canada and US Bank.
Oh, okay, RBC and US, okay.
Director Russell?
So when I see something, first of all, it's a beautiful project. It's really remarkable what you're bringing. But I always like to understand what goes into it. Is it replicable? And a couple of things that come to mind did this use the state density bonus program? And is there a current inclusionary requirement in that part of Los Angeles?
So this project used a transit-oriented communities program, which comes along with the 23% affordable.
Okay.
And then we used Assembly Bill 2011 as our entitlement path, which is a newer Assembly bill with a ministerial approval path.
Very good. Thank you. That helps illustrate. This is what we were hoping for with that legislation.
Yeah,
Exactly. So,
Okay. Thank you.
In that way, I think it makes it a really unique project to not only see 2011 come to light, but the Faircloth to RAD component is something that has been really difficult nationwide. This is like a deep cut in housing authority abilities, and we have untapped authority in our state. So being able to combine these financial tools is really impressive. And to your point, like, will this come to the board? I'd love to be able to continue to stay in contact and hear about the success to the point of replicability, because being able to unlock Faircloth units is something that could free up the opportunity for production. And so you've put together something really impressive. This project has gotten a lot of attention. Been hearing about the Costco project, and so to put it all together with land use, innovative financial strategies, including partnership with multiple public agencies, is quite impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Curran. Yeah, this is quite intriguing in terms of is it a template or a model for what could be done beyond this? So thank you.
We believe it is. You know, the mix of retail and residential and, financial tools like recycled bond cap and Assembly bills like 2011. And when you put all that together, I think it's, certainly encouraging.
Okay. Great. Any other questions, comments from the board?
thank you for the pictures.
Let the record indicate that we like pictures. I'd like to see if there's any public comment. Courtney, can you see if there's any comment, input from the public?
If any members of the public would like to make a comment, please raise your hand or come forward. None at this time.
Thank you very much. Thank you both very much. Our next agenda item is 7. There's written reports. It's in the package. I'd like to see if there's any questions or comments from the board on the information items. I don't see any hands raised. Courtney, can you see if there's any public question, comment on the informational items?
If any members of the public would like to make a comment, please raise your hand or come forward. There's none at this time.
Thank you. And then our next agenda item is just other board matters, items that are not on the agenda we really can't discuss, but just like to put out there. I did note that.
Go back to item 7 really quick.
Yes,
Just
please.
got one question, because I know in the recently passed state budget, this budget year, there's $300 million for the California Drink for All program. And like, what do we anticipate the timing of that money being available for us to go and administer that?
Like, fair answer is TBD.
Got it.
We're currently working through, so phase 2 still does have vouchers out. So we are currently looking at the allotment that we were given, making sure there isn't any other language established by the legislature between now and September in trailer bill language of any sort. And then we're defining kind of the scope and the timeline for the program. We would bring that back to the board, though. I don't want to say a month because I don't want to make Ellen not like me today, so can't see her anyways. But normal course of business is we need to kind of close out phase 2 completely, and then we'll build a timeline for phase 3 in that there. But we want to make sure we're giving space to accommodate any new requirements that maybe the administration would like to see in phase 3 and/or the legislature.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Hardiman. Good question. Director Limon.
I wanted to just make a quick comment about the comment that was submitted, the public comment that was submitted to us. I just want to thank Mr. Stewart for his thoughtful letter that he submitted to the board. I love his policy recommendations. Many of them I've advocated for throughout my career. Unfortunately, many of those are subject to the jurisdiction of Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, not CalHFA. But my question is, on the conversation around credit scores, we do have to recognize that we have an outdated way of calculating our credit scores and our FICO scores. And there's been many discussions around alternative credit models, Vantage scores. Many other companies have come out with other models that are inclusive of rental payments and utility payments. I wonder if there is a roundtable that could be done, at least on this subject, to address, to see if there's anything that we can do at the CalHFA level on this issue. But I just wanted to recognize and acknowledge his thoughtful letter.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I'll make a note here, that might be an item to follow up with staff.
Yeah, and staff
for
is
discussion.
participating in all of the Fannie Mae roundtables that are occurring. I think there was one that was supposed to be happening, I think this month, that got pushed out to September. And so that's when we do talk about any sort of out-of-state travel and in being cognizant of the budget letter that the, State Treasurer's Office, or State Treasurer's Office had, no, DOF, sorry, had issued, we do find this essential business to be at the table in these conversations. So it's certainly a topic that we can discuss. I will say and highlight your comment, though, that we are kind of bound by the rules and policies made at that level and
Definitely.
with those. So we do try to influence the conversation as much as we can.
Thank you.
Right. Director Russell?
Just a statement for the record. I wanted to acknowledge that San Diego always marches to its own drum, and so our Pride Festival will be taking place this weekend. Our Pride Parade, we're expecting 250 to 300,000 people to participate. It's one of the largest parades in the country. But as in our community, we are discussing the challenges that our seniors, our aging LGBTQ seniors, are facing. The challenges, particularly on our youth, who are coming out of, a lot of coming out of foster care. We're reminded that affordable housing is one of the great unfinished projects of the civil rights era, and this is a weekend where we will stand in solidarity around that. So, and I thank you all for being allies in that fight.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Any other item, like just for
Chair.
for board to consider later?
One more,
Yes, Dr. Kurgan.
maybe just planting a seed if it shows up in future strategic planning conversations, but with a couple mentions of our aging population and youth. I just want to mention that our California Department of Aging has a master plan for aging. There's 5 goals. The number 1 goal is housing for all ages and stages of abilities. So there are a group of older adults and people with disabilities. Excuse me, I grabbed a mint because I thought. So sorry. Bad timing. But I just thought it was important for board members to know there's opportunities for engagement there. They certainly want to connect with housing professionals, and there's a lot of people who are, affected by the housing crisis who are looking for ways to advocate in different ways and looking at other models. So it might be a point of connection for people who are interested in this, but maybe could show up in a component of our strategic plan conversation, thinking about interagency connections and ways that CalHFA tools, knowledge, and authorities might be able to help some of these challenges.
Okay. Thank you, Director Kurgan. Yes, Director Sotelo?
If we could get a report back on the usage of the fire recovery dollars, and specifically if our income parameters for that program have, dissuaded people from applying for the funds, or has it encouraged people, just the usage component.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think one thing I was thinking of was like another, under this agenda item was, that, again, we get to this process of planning things out. Like today, for example, we had the meeting because a prior board resolution had us approve a project, or rather increased loan commitment, whereas it was above the 7% threshold, which meant everyone had to come here for that. It made me think, I wonder if for certain items where right now the whole board has to meet to do that, would it make sense to have, in effect, more like a loan committee, subs of the board do that? just thinking of how we all manage our time and what we want to focus on. And I don't want to sort of really talk about that now, but just like put that out there, and maybe we talk about what's the best use of board time and energy and thought, and how we, because all this takes time and effort, for staff to pull off, in addition for all of us getting here and some of us right on the dot. So just want to put that out there as well, something to think about. Are there any other items under this, like board matters that we might want to take on going forward? And I did note, Director Sotelo, you had one item, you had one item, like talking about the use of subsidies, MIP, and how we're
Yeah,
integrating
just
that.
understanding, the MIP repayment strategy. Oftentimes, we delay our repayment of that, and it's such an important resource to recycle.
Okay, got that, thank you. Director
I
Harden.
just want to echo what Director Lamone was saying as it relates to credit scores. I know, we're limited as it relates to VA loans and FHA loans, but, what's our policy, and are we bound by a law as it relates to credit scores? I mean, could we be, look at innovative ways to maybe, set a, new progressive precedent? Like, I completely agree. I think that's a huge barrier for access to loans. And, if we could be creative and use our creative thinking to create some innovation on this front, I think it would be really important.
Okay, good thought, thank you. Thank you both. Yes?
So we have a project coming before our committee in August, I believe, that is sort of restructuring, like after the fact to become an ownership project. That was a LIHTC project and it works out because it was part of a subdivision, so all the units are already subdivided. But in general, we have not, our program has generally not been used to have like a lease to own, even though it's allowable under Section 42. And we do have components in our regs that allow projects to sort of be set up at application for that, which again is pretty rare. But I see a lot of rehab projects coming in that are old townhouse style tax credit projects that really are probably good models for moving into some sort of tax credit to ownership model during the extended use period. And so as we're always looking for creative ways of bringing in new lower income homeowners, I'd really love to work with CalHFA on the TCAC side to sort of figure out, is there a way that we can better connect up some of the down payment assistance programs to assist in some of these types of conversions, and sort of how do we create a good model on the tax credit side that would allow this to work. That's sort of one. And then the second in general is the more we can do to connect over income tax credit tenants to homeownership opportunities through the use of some of the down payment assistance programs that CalHFA has, we get a double bang for our buck at the state, because we'll be moving people out of low income units at the same time as helping them get into a home. So I really think we've not spent enough time focusing on sort of that trajectory as well. That is a real opportunity for the state.
It's a different kind of recycling. Thank
It's
you.
a different kind of recycling.
That's a great thought, thank you.
Just to build on that, I think, Director Wyant, one of the things that would be helpful in the conversation about the first is subsidy to developers to then guarantee a takeout vehicle for, kind of the tax credit structure. And HCD used to have the Cal Home program, I think, that was a subsidy to developers that provided first-time home buyer grants as a takeout. So maybe in our strategic plan conversation, we can bring in and loop that conversation in and programmatically create something that the developer would come into TCAC with a guaranteed takeout subsidy for the home buyer, so that lease to own assistance was kind of already in place beforehand.
Okay, thank you. Director Leamon.
And Director Wyant, there's a model in San Isidro in San Diego County an organization called Casa Familiar that's doing something similar that could be an interesting model. They're doing land use, light tech, up to 15 years, and then converting it into home ownership. Would be interesting to see how that works out and if lessons learned from that.
Yeah, because one of the reasons, among many, that in California we don't have sort of condo-y options either is
Yeah.
because of construction
Condo
defect and all these other things. But with the tax credit program, once you get to year 15, you're kind of out of that period anyway. So there is a way that we could do some of this if we get the right people thinking about it.
Yeah.
I just want to let's throw another log on the fire here. The city of San Diego is working on development regulations that would encourage the reuse of existing urban land, smaller parcels for like row homes, garden-style townhomes, small-scale development. And so I would like, when we have this discussion, I think there's some really, if we could make sure the typology of the housing matched the necessities of the financing and would do that, I'd like to make the connection with the city. Because San Diego's been a great leader. I don't know if people realize this in terms of really progressive zoning policies that have produced a great increase in the amount of housing. And there's another example here. And the issue you described about over-income tenants is one that we experience in San Diego. We have some projects that you're coming close to at risk because of the number of over-income tenants they have, who don't have just that little extra money to get 2 rungs up on the ladder. So I'd like to engage you in that discussion.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
just wanted to plug that next month we will be having a strategic planning workshop. And I think all of these ideas are great and would be wonderful additions to that conversation for the board to be having.
There you go. Okay, I think that was really a productive, that was the most useful public, other board matters agenda item I think I've seen in my 3+ years on the board. I think with that, we're good. I want to make sure we capture general public comments. This is for items that weren't necessarily on the agenda. Courtney, can you see if there's anything?
I do want to note for the audience who may be watching this on YouTube that the general written public comment that was received has been posted on the CalHFA website on the board meeting page. And with that, I'll ask for general public comment here at the meeting. If there are any members of the public who would like to make a comment, please raise your hand or come forward. There's none at this time. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, and we have the written public comment item at our, right here. Okay, I think with that, I think this is the shortest meeting I've seen in a while. So with that, I'm going to call this adjourned. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you again.